Hey guys, today I'm going to talk to you about formatting in Python, and what I mean by that is just printing out your output in a specific format, especially numbers. It's the most common one. New developers, they'll be working on something and they want their output to be displayed to a certain decimal percentage, for example, some number, maybe dollars, and they want it to be printed out to maybe 2 decimal points or 3 decimal points, but Python maybe prints with only 1 or 17 or however many Python decides to print out at the time. So I'm going to show you how to use formatting in order to get the output the way you want it. So there's a couple things that we need to go over, but first let me kind of just give you an example of what I'm talking about. So I'm going to create a variable here. We're going to call it my float, and I'm just going to assign some value. I don't know, 12.0. Okay. Now what I can do is I can print the value. If I could spell print right, I'm going to print the value of my float. So let's see how that prints. All right, cool, looks good. Now I go, all right, well, what if I want that to be 2 decimal points? I'll just add another decimal point up there. We'll run it, and Python didn't care. It says, no, I'm going to print it to only 1, and you're going to like it. So how can we fix that? Well, there's a couple things, okay? A couple things we need to know. First, there is something called a format string. Okay, so format string. And as you guessed it, it is just a string. Okay, so it can be, whatever you want. Any text, anything that is a valid string is okay in your string. Now, along with that, to make a format string, you also have to put in these little placeholders that will be substituted with some value by Python while the program's running. So let's do this here. You spent some amount of dollars, okay, something like that. So now we need to tell Python to inject, if you will, inject some value right here so that it will print out. So to do that, we use this %, followed immediately by a type specifier. So we tell Python what type of data is going to be injected right here. So there's a couple different ones. There's D for decimal or for integers, S for string. I don't know why D is integer, it just is. S for string, and as you would think, F for float. So since we have a float up here that we're going to inject into this string, we're going to use this float specifier. Cool. So now let's try that. We're going to do we're going to print out the format string, and then after our format string, we have to tell Python what to replace with that placeholder. So to do that, we use the % again, followed by what is going to be substituted. In this case, it's my float. All right, cool. So let's run that, and well, now it printed a little differently, huh? So it's still not quite 2 decimal points, but we can fix that. So to fix that, now we add what's called a format specifier inside our placeholder. So to do that, we tell Python, hey, we're going to tell you how many decimal points, that's what the decimal point is for, to format this number to. And then we just specify some integer, right? Whatever number you want. In this case, we want 2 decimal points. So we'll specify .2. So the .2 tells Python 2 decimal points. Let's run that, and there we have it. Now we've got the good output there. That's what we were expecting. Yeah, so also it doesn't have to be in a variable like that. We can just put that in right there, which typically I like to do it that way. But that'll do the same thing. So whether it's in a variable, the format string, whether it's a variable or not, doesn't matter. But do keep in mind, okay, make note, there is no punctuation here, there's no commas, okay, that's not going to do the right thing. As you can see, my editor is saying, hey, that's a problem. So there's no space or no commas or anything. The space doesn't matter, it can be there or after, it doesn't matter. You can, if you want, put a parentheses around this. For just one value, it's not required. For multiples, it is, and I'll go over that here next. All right, so let's add in a couple other variables that we can print out. New string, something like that. Okay, so now in my format string, we're going to do this a little differently. I'm going to say float, and I need a % for my placeholder, and let's do .3f. Okay, and I'm going to do, you know what, I'm going to do like pi or something. 5926535, something like that. So we're going to print it out just to 3 decimal points, my float. We're going to do that again. Now for the integer, and then instead of the f, we have to do d, because that's integer somehow, my int. And then we'll do another one for my string. Oh, it's just called string. I should probably change that for consistency. My string. All right, and then instead of the D here, we need to specify the S for string. So now let's run that, and we can see it injected our values as we wanted them to. So yeah, cool. Now what happens if we want to put them all in one print statement? Well, we can do that. We just have to add into our right here. Let's do that. So int, and I'm going to put that, make that go onto a new line. Oh, and you know what? I printed int both times there. That shouldn't be int, that should be string. All right, cool. So now I've got my format string. Okay, it's the whole string that I'm going to print, including the placeholders and any special format specifiers here. Some other ones you can do is I could specify another number here, make that like 6. What that would do is it would print 6. It would be 6 wide and 3 decimal points. So let's see how that kind of works out. Same with the integers. I could specify I wanted it to be printed with 6 characters, and I could even specify a 0 in the beginning to tell it to left pad, so 0 pad the beginning of the integer. You know, I'm going to do like 7, just so we don't have 6 on both of those. All right, so now after my format string, I need to specify what to inject in those positions. So to do that, when we have multiples, we have to have the parentheses. Okay? When you only have one, parentheses aren't required, but you can use them. In this case, since we have 3 values that we're going to inject, we have to have the parentheses. So first is going to be the float, and yes, order does matter. So the first placeholder that we come across is the float, so we have to do that. The next placeholder is going to be for the integer, and the last one is for the string. So let's print that and see what happens. I forgot my new line character right here. Let's try that again. All right, so as you can see, the numbers, okay, so this 6 called Python, make it 6 characters wide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and that's because I have a space here too. So it adds some extra space there if needed, and it formats it to 3 decimal points. This one says make it 7 characters wide and do left padding with zeros, anything that's needed to make it a full 7 digits. And then the string, just string. So then what it does is it takes the first value of my float, shoves it into there, then integer into there, and string into there. So yes, order does matter. Let me just show you real quick here. I'm going to take that out. We're going to swap the order there. My int. Now let's run it. And you'll notice we get an error. It says, hey, deformat, a number is required, not a string. So it kind of tells you what's going on. It's kind of cool. All right, so let's do this. I'm going to show you one other. That's kind of that was the original way that Python did formatting, and this is also the same for many other languages, including C, C++, Java. There's a few different ways you can format, and they all use the same sort of syntax for this, with the % and the letters and the numbers in between and all that stuff. So once you learn it for Python, you pretty much know it for the other languages as well. All right, so let's do another print. I'm going to show you one other way we can do this. So float, we're going to do, the placeholder is now using these curly braces instead of the percent sign. So there's that. New line, int, and another placeholder. And then a new line, string, and one more placeholder. So for this one, you'll notice we don't have to specify what data type it is. Python's going to figure it out and handle it accordingly. So now, the way we tell Python what to replace and what to inject in those places, those placeholders, immediately after our format string, so right at the end, but still inside of our parentheses, we're going to do a dot format, and then we just specify the values to inject. In this case, order also matters. So we're going to do my int and my string. I'm going to comment that one out so I don't get an error. Let's run that, and you'll notice it prints out just fine. We didn't have to tell Python what data type to use. It was able to figure it out. Now, if you really want to, and then also let me show you this real quick here. So my string, my int. So you'll notice now I swapped the order, okay? Aha, I don't get an error, and that's because, again, we don't have to tell Python what it is. Python will infer, it will figure it all out, and and act accordingly. So kind of cool. Now, if you really wanted to, you can, inside these placeholders, inside these braces, you can specify a position from this list in order to inject. So for example, the float is at position 0, because that's the first one. The integer is actually at position 2, so I'm going to put a 2 right here. And the string is at position 1. So now let's run that, and you'll notice it swapped the orders, or it swapped those two. Even though they're specified in the wrong order, we can change that up in here using this syntax. So there we have it. Now if we wanted to format to just 2 decimal points, then what we do is we add a colon, and that's not required. So if it's not there, we just use the colon, and then we do the same dot to f. And now Python should be able to format that. Dot to, nope, let's see, cannot switch from automatic field numbering to manual field. Oh, okay. So I do need to specify the 0, and that's only because I'm specifying the values in here as well. There we go. So it formatted it as intended. So if I were to take those out, I'd have to take them out of all of them. So it's either all or nothing, apparently, with Python. There, see, now that one worked, just because it can't switch from inferring to manual. So that's why I got the error there. But that's the other way you can format using this other format syntax. Okay, this is the string.format, and this one up here is just your normal traditional percent stuff formatting. Yeah, so I hope that makes a little bit of sense. I hope you can understand that and you see how that works. And it's very useful because it lets you define very long strings or very complicated strings that need to have values injected into it that are calculated in some other fashion. And doing the same thing without that would look something like this, right? Float. And then you'd have to have a string concatenation, do string my float. And then after that, another string concatenation plus a new line, int, and more string concatenation. So now this needs to be string my integer. And you can see this gets very complex. Not only is it difficult to type, it's difficult to read. And you want your code to be as readable as possible. So using one of these other formats is definitely preferred. It's going to make your life a little easier and everybody else's life who has to read your code. So I hope that makes sense, and thanks for watching.